Good morning, everyone. We studied about the immune system yesterday. This is a question on that, which UPSC has asked. D, okay. Online people. Which one of the following statements best describes the role of B cells and T cells in the human body? They protect the body from environmental allergens. So this means they have a role in allergic reactions. So not really. That's not their function. They alleviate the body's pain and inflammation. They act as immunosuppressants in the body. Immunosuppressant means something which reduces immunity, something which suppresses immunity. And the last one is they protect the body from diseases caused by pathogens. So we learned that B cells, they have a antibody mediated immune response, and T cells, they have a cell mediated immune response. The basic purpose of this is to protect the body from pathogens. So out of these options, D is the most appropriate option. So D is going to be the answer. Allergic, it might seem like a similar term, but allergic reactions is a very complex process with different white blood cells involved. The white blood cells involved, there are eosinophils. वो एक specialized mechanism है. यहाँ पे if you compare this, अगर आपको लग रहा है ये भी सही है तो आप इसको गलत तो नहीं कर सकते ना. It is a better option, specifically for B cells and T cells. Okay, so we had then started talking about different systems of the body. We're going to this next system, which we will very briefly be talking about, which is the excretory system. Now, we said from our food, the nutrients are going to be absorbed into the blood, and then blood can carry all these nutrients to different parts of the body. Now, as these nutrients they pass on to different parts of the body, they are going to be used. There will be different chemical reactions which will take place and at different location, and in those reactions also some things are going to be left. There will be some byproducts which are going to be formed which need to be removed from the body. So there is waste, we can say, which is produced as different processes are taking place in different parts of the body, and this excretory system is that system which is for removal of those waste. So excretion is for removal of waste and along with this, the amount of water, if it is extra, that also needs to be removed. So here for water we use the term regulation of water. How much water is there in the body at all times, that should be stable. There is a fixed amount of water which your body makes sure is available at all times, and that is needed for the proper functioning of the body. The excretory system is made up of your two kidneys. Kidneys are the main organs here, and they are going to be doing these two functions. They will remove the waste and they will regulate how much water is going to be there in the body. For this, the two kidneys follow the process of filtration. Just like a normal water filter works, the kidney is going to work in a similar pattern. But here they are filtering the blood. What happens is that the kidney receives the blood, and just like, think of water coming into a water filter. So in a water filter, water will come. The filter will keep the impurities with itself and then give you clean water. Right? This is the normal process of filtration. Same thing is happening with the kidneys. Here we have blood coming in, and you can call this impure blood. Impure blood comes into the kidneys will filter it out, the kidneys will keep the wastes with itself, and will keep the extra water with itself. The rest of it, the water, minerals, everything is going to be sent back, and now the blood which comes out from the kidney is going to be the pure blood. So the whole blood of the body is going to be filtered to remove the wastes. This waste and water which comes in the kidney, this is what forms the urine. Yesterday somebody was asking about urine. So urine is waste and water removed from the blood, and the two kidneys are connected through two tubes called ureters. As urine is being formed from the ureters, it will keep coming and getting stored in the urinary bladder. The urine keeps getting stored here, and once it is full, the bladder is full, it is going to remove urine from the body. In order to check if the excretory system is working properly or not, we can check the blood or we can check the urine. Suppose you check the urine and you find that, okay, like these wastes, they are mainly nitrogenous wastes. Things like urea, uric acid, these are the main wastes of the body. So suppose you check blood and you find that the amount of urea in blood is extra. It's more than the normal range. An understanding of that could be that the kidneys are not working properly. Because if the kidneys are not working properly, that is the reason they are not removing this urea from the blood, and blood has more urea. Okay, of course, there can be many other reasons also. There can be some dietary problems associated with it, but this can definitely indicate something wrong with the kidneys. Okay, if I tell you a little bit more about the wastes which are there, or the composition of urine per se, the main waste in terms of quantity is urea. Most animals have, not most, all animals have nitrogenous waste which they are removing through their excretory system, and what product they are using, that can be different. यूरिया हो सकता है, बर्ड्स में यूरिक एसिड हो सकता है, ये वेरिएशन होती है, बट नाइट्रोजनस होता है. The other wastes which are present are also 2.5%, and the ideal composition is supposed to be 95% water. Based on how much water intake is there, the composition of urine can vary. And I'm sure this you understand, like if somebody is drinking more water, so more water is going to be removed from the body. The wastes are going to get diluted, the color of the urine will become very light. At the same time, if there's a person who is drinking less water, water intake if it is less, then वेस्ट तो उतने ही हैं जितने निकलेंगे, बट बिकॉज the person is drinking less water, the body, what it will, the kidneys, what it will try to do is, it will try and ensure that the water stays in the body. सो ब्लड में पानी जितना चाहिए वो फिक्स है, उसको ऑल्टर नहीं कर सकते आप, वो फिक्स्ड अमाउंट रखना पड़ेगा. सो इफ समबडी इज ड्रिंकिंग लेस, द बॉडी विल हैव टू कीप मोस्ट ऑफ दैट वाटर विद इटसेल्फ एंड देयर विल बी लेस वाटर लेफ्ट टू बी रिमूव्ड. So in that case, the urine which will come out, it will come out with less water, and because of the waste, it is going to look very concentrated. The color is going to be very dark. That's the variation with the amount of water. ठीक है? How drinking water is connected to sore formation in the mouth. I think it is a basic idea of dryness of any part, which can lead to some problems like in the mouth. Nothing more specific about that. How creatinine affects the kidneys in the absence of adequate water. So creatinine is also one of the things which are going to come out as a waste. And again, same logic, कि to remove the waste, wastes cannot come out in a solid form. Waste को dissolve करने के लिए आपको पानी चाहिए ही चाहिए. Everything, the urine is going to come out in the solution form only. So less water means difficulty to remove the wastes. What is urine infection? So if there is any infection in this whole passage, through which, especially the outlet through which urine is coming, that's going to be urine infection. How sodium chloride balances the fluid in the body? Does it involve blood and water or some other fluids too? We studied about sodium chloride when we studied the minerals, and there we learned this, that the salt which is there, it helps to maintain the fluid balance of the body. तो अगर salt कम होता है, पानी भी कम होता है, salt बढ़ता है तो पानी भी बढ़ता है. That's the direct relationship. Again, because consistency of the water in the blood is maintained by the minerals which are dissolved in it. What is the maximum capacity of urinary bladder? So I guess that is going to be invariably different for different people. And I don't know if there's a number. There might be a number. आप check कर लो. The problem of drinking more water. So again, if water amount is also abnormally high, so that will be a problem again, in the sense that the salt amount is going to become very less proportionately. नहीं, not really. उतना abnormal जो है काम नहीं रहता है, उसको वेस्ट के लिए ज़्यादा मेहनत करनी पड़ती है, पर अगर पानी ज़्यादा भी है तो वो कन्वीनियंटली पानी तो निकल जाता है. Keratin sub. Why are we talking about keratin? This is not really the zone to talk about this. I know you might be curious and somebody might be taking these keratin supplements, but you really don't need. I'm not even telling you the names of parts of the kidneys, because we really don't need to go into that much detail. If you understand how excretory system works, that's good enough for UPSC. Okay? G. No. Why will they be same if they have different names? Right? They are different. Very different. But composition in terms of what they are made up of, the similar point is both of them contain nitrogen. Right? They are different things. There is no use of heart in purification of blood. No, I don't know what you understand by purification of blood, but there is one mechanism of adding oxygen to the blood, जिस circulation में heart is mainly involved. इस circulation में भी heart is involved. So how heart is involved in purification of blood is कि heart push करके blood यहाँ पे भेज रहा है, फिर यहाँ से blood वापस heart में जाएगा. ठीक है, that is the role. The direct involvement is going to be of the kidneys. What about a person who drinks too much water but have constipation problems? इस process का do you think is any link with the constipation process? Which system will that be associated with? Digestive system, which we studied yesterday, right? So that idea of constipation would be about movement of things in the intestine. So water can definitely help push that. But again और बहुत सारे problems हो सकते हैं. Muscles जो है intestine की वो सही से काम नहीं कर रही. Fiber content बहुत कम है. We spoke about that fiber content that can lead to these problems. Vitamin supplements cause kidney damage. We studied two types of vitamins, fat soluble and water soluble vitamins. So water soluble vitamins, they dissolve in water. They can easily be removed from the body. There is no problem. Fat soluble fat में जाके deposit हो जाते हैं. As such, supplements जो हैं, vitamin supplements, in a normal situation, when taken in the proper dose which body needs, there is not really a problem on any of the organs. How kidney stone is formed? So kidney stone की basic composition है calcium oxalate. This is the most common form of your kidney stone, and the contributing factor to this is presence of some dietary abnormality. Calcium oxalate, oxalate or oxalic acids, they are present in things like cucumbers, tomatoes, spinach. So when they are abnormal in amount in the body, what can happen is they can start because of their their amount being more, they can start getting deposited at the tubes of the kidneys, especially if water is less. See, waste को remove करने के लिए we need water. Water is what is going to dissolve the waste and then it is going to be removed. अगर water भी कम है और इन चीजों का amount ज़्यादा है, so they can start getting stuck in the tubes of the kidneys in the form of solid structures, and over a period of time they can start growing and sometimes even block the tubes. Okay, so the problem with stones comes when they are blocking the tubes through which urine is going to be coming out, because once they are stuck here, the space is less and urine आएगा, ऊपर से धक्का लगाएगा, there's going to be pain because of these stones being stuck. And there can be another situation that the force which the urine is exerting, that can be very large and they can be stuck somewhere in the walls of the tubes, and some blood as a result can also come out because of the damage of the wall. Okay, so blood आ सकता है, pain होगा. When the stones are of smaller size, the simplest solution is that drink a lot of fluids. Fluids will make sure that the flow is there, more flow of water, more flow of fluid is there, which can remove the stone. So fluids can be water, can be juices. Some people say beer पियो तो और जल्दी हो जाता है, right? So basic idea is liquid चाहिए so that this can just wash out with that. जब size बड़ा हो जाएगा तो liquid से नहीं काम चलेगा, it will have to be surgically removed. ठीक है? The next system we have to talk about G. Alternative process. See, basically filter करना है blood को. ठीक है, वेस्ट निकालना है, एक्स्ट्रा वाटर निकालना है. इफ वन किडनी स्टॉप्स वर्किंग, देयर सम प्रॉब्लम, किडनी हैज स्टॉप्ड, यू स्टिल हैव द सेकंड वन विच विल टेक ऑन द फंक्शन. ठीक है, तो उससे प्रोसेस धीरे धीरे होगा क्योंकि अब एक ही किडनी काम कर रही है, बट हो जाएगा. जब दोनों किडनीज काम करनी बंद कर दें तो वी हैव व्हाट वी कॉल एन आर्टिफिशियल किडनी और द प्रोसेस ऑफ dialysis. This is the same thing which is going to be happening. There is this machine, the dialysis machine, to which the blood vessels are going to be attached. So एक blood vessel में से blood आएगा सारा body का, इस machine के through जाएगा, machine waste निकाल लेगी, extra water निकाल लेगी, and the rest of it is going to be sent back. And people in those people whose kidneys have failed, they'll have to regularly go for this dialysis process. Again, depending on the condition of their body, twice a week, once a week, whatever is their state, they'll have to get it done. Or the other alternative is to get a kidney transplant. Yeah. Yes, definitely. We can check which kidney, और kidney का भी individual कौन सा part काम कर रहा है, कौन सा नहीं कर रहा है, we can see that. Imaging technology से भी पता चल जाता है, and और भी तरीके. How kidney is affected by drinking of carbonated drinks? See, kidney affected by anything which you are putting into your body, because जब वो सारी चीजें process हो जाएंगी, उनका जो waste बनेगा वो निकलने के लिए kidney का यूज होने वाला है. ठीक है, so anything which is abnormally coming into the body, that can have that impact. Carbonated drinks or anything which we eat, उनका कोई direct impact नहीं होता, because they will be processed through the digestive system. ठीक है, but in overall nutrient value, if there is some abnormality, then it can impact the kidneys. Next, we are going to talk about the blood, the circulatory system. We've been talking about how different systems of the body are linked to the blood. So we have to finally understand how blood will move. The circulatory system is basically the system of transportation in the body. Transportation means how things will move from one place to the other. That is decided by this system. The components here are blood, blood vessels. Blood is present inside the blood vessels. And then the heart. Heart is that organ which is providing the force for blood to move to different parts of the body. Heart is basically like a pump, giving that force for blood to move. So let's first talk about the heart. I'll draw the diagram which you understand. This is the heart. And this heart, the heart is the size of your fist. Okay, this is how big the heart is. And it is divided into 4 parts. There are 4 compartments in the heart, 4 structures or 4 chambers. The upper chambers are called atrium, auricles. Both these terms can be used. And the lower chambers are called ventricles. When we draw any diagram of the human body, you have to think about the person standing like this. So this is going to be the right side, this will be the left side. Okay, so right side of the heart and left side of the heart. So accordingly, how the chambers are going to be named is, this is right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. 4 chambers of the heart. We are going to see how blood circulation is actually taking place throughout the body. And for that, let's take a little idea about the blood vessels. We have two main types of blood vessels in our body. One is artery and the other is vein. Artery is that blood vessel which takes blood away from the heart. And veins, on the other hand, are blood vessels which bring blood towards the heart. You can remember artery and away, A and A. Veins we can see, right? You've seen your veins? What is the color of the veins? Bluish green, right? So why we can see our veins is because they are closer to our skin. Arteries, on the other hand, are deep seated within the body, so we cannot see them. Veins are superficial in position, that means closer to the skin, and they are bluish green in color. Arteries are deep seated and they are reddish in color. Arteries are also thick walled and veins are thin walled. अंदर से भी आर्टरी वाइडर होगी. See, now if you think of the situation of the heart here, the top chambers and the bottom chambers, whenever blood is flowing, okay, whenever blood is supposed to move through the heart, it will come on top, go from the auricle to the ventricle and then flow out. Whenever blood comes in the heart, it is going to be coming in the top chambers first, फिर top से bottom chambers में जाएगा ventricles में, and then it is going to go out. ठीक है? So आप blood vessel से इसको connect कर सकते हो. Arteries are taking blood away from the heart. Veins are bringing it towards the heart. So यहाँ पे towards the heart आ रहा है blood. This is going to be a vein. And here the blood is going away. So this is going to be an artery. And you can simply remember this as AV. Okay. Atrium, vein, ventricle, artery. So auricles पे veins attached होंगी, ventricles पे arteries attached होंगी. I'll show you the image here. This is a cut section of the heart. Okay, what they've done here is the heart, they have cut it open from between so that the chambers can be visible. So you have this chamber, right atrium, then just below this you have right ventricle, then you have left ventricle, and you can't see it completely because of the blood vessels, but this is the left atrium. Now we are going to see how circulation actually is going to happen, how the blood vessels are connected, how things are moving around the body. We can do it from this diagram also, but we will use this flowchart to understand the circulation. Yesterday we studied about the lungs bringing in oxygen, right? The lungs are bringing oxygen, and we are going to use that to understand how things are moving around the body. So we'll start with the lungs. Lungs bring oxygen to the blood, and when blood receives oxygen, this blood is called oxygenated blood. So lungs से oxygenated blood आ रहा है, and this is going to go to the left side of the heart. So first left auricle, then left ventricle. पहले ऊपर वाला chamber, फिर नीचे वाला chamber. Then from the left ventricle, blood is going to go out. This is oxygenated blood, and it will go to all parts of the body. Why does the body need this oxygenated blood? What will it do with the oxygen? Breakdown of glucose, produce energy, right? Cellular respiration. So oxygen is going to be utilized, and now the blood is going to be deoxygenated blood. Oxygen is used, no longer present, so this is deoxygenated blood. So deoxygenated blood goes to the right auricle, then from the right auricle to the right ventricle, and from there deoxygenated blood will come out, go back to the lungs to get more oxygen. Left side पे oxygenated blood है, right पे deoxygenated. This is what you need to remember here in this chart. Left oxygenated, right deoxygenated. And it is actually not running in a cycle like this. ऐसा नहीं है कि पहले लेफ्ट पे आएगा फिर राइट साइड खाली बैठा है वेट कर रहा है कि अच्छा तुम्हारा हो जाए तो इधर भेज देना ब्लड, राइट? इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. Both the sides continuously have blood flow. So left पे continuously oxygenated blood चल रहा है, right पे continuously deoxygenated blood is moving. Because of that, this circulation is called double circulation of the heart. The two sides of the heart are undergoing circulation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. I am going to add blood vessels also into this cycle. So lungs से oxygenated blood is now coming towards the heart. Which blood vessel will bring blood towards the heart? Veins. Okay. So यहाँ पे lung से आ रहा है तो इसका नाम है pulmonary vein. Left auricle, then left ventricle, and from left ventricle now away from the heart. Away from the heart is going to be an artery. The name of this artery is aorta. Then after all the oxygen is used, the deoxygenated blood is going to come towards the heart. Towards the heart means a vein, and there are a set of veins called vena cava. Right auricle, right ventricle. Okay. From right ventricle, now it is going to go out again. So blood going away from the heart is again going to be an artery and going to the lungs. So this is pulmonary artery. We use two more terms to describe this circulation. The part which has the lungs, we say that is pulmonary circulation, and the part which has the rest of the systems of the body, that is called systemic circulation. Based on this idea, we are going to talk about one more point of difference between arteries and veins. You can use the word impure and pure for oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, but again it is more relevant when the waste component is discussed, but yes, it can be used here. It is a more specific and a better term to say oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Carbon dioxide is also a waste which has to be removed, which is present in deoxygenated blood, but still it becomes more specific. Now here in the discussion of arteries and veins, we have arteries always carrying oxygenated blood except for pulmonary artery. And the veins always carry deoxygenated blood except for pulmonary vein. Blockage in heart. We've studied about the blockages in heart. Do you remember? When did we study about the blockage in heart? Trans fats, yes. So blockages in heart and blood vessels is because of excess accumulation of the fats. What is systolic and diastolic blood pressure? So we cannot go into that. That's again beyond our scope. See, the very fact that I'm reading your questions when I'm not supposed to, because you're supposed to ask questions in the query section, is me already going an extra mile. Please don't abuse that. We're going to talk about the blood now. Okay. What is the color of the blood? Why is the blood red? Due to presence of hemoglobin. And in hemoglobin specifically we have iron. Okay, it is the iron which is present in hemoglobin which gives red color to the blood. So blood has two parts. One is plasma, which is the liquid part, and it contains cells. So hemoglobin is present in the red blood cells, and this contains iron which will give red color to the blood. Without these cells, if we just look at the liquid part, the liquid is yellow. So there is a yellowish liquid. This contains special proteins called plasma proteins. The plasma contains proteins. Please write these proteins. First one is globulin. Globulin is for defense mechanism of the body. Please write this with globulin. Globulin is for defense mechanism of the body. Then you have albumin. This is to maintain the pressure of blood. Albumin is to maintain the pressure of blood. And fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is for clotting of blood. Fibrinogen is for clotting of blood. Talking about the cells here, red blood cells are also called erythrocytes. What do red blood cells do? Transport of oxygen. Okay. For red blood cells, their main function is they transport oxygen. How they are transporting oxygen is through hemoglobin. Hemoglobin attaches to oxygen and then that transfers to all parts of the body. That's the main function of red blood cells. The second cell here are platelets, also called thrombocytes. Currently, platelets are very infamously in news because of Covishield vaccine. Platelets, what they are supposed to be doing is they are going to start the process of clotting of blood. They initiate the process of clotting of blood. That is their function. They initiate clotting of blood. Now, other than platelets, what all other things you know which are associated with clotting of blood? Vitamin K and not B12, not heparin, not in our body at least. ये अभी तो पढ़ा है देखो ना. Fibrinogen. What happens is when a blood vessel is injured, okay, since the blood vessel this got injured, what will happen is the blood will start flowing out. There will be blood loss. And we don't want this blood loss, so what we do is, or what the body does is, it forms a meshwork like clot here to seal this area. Once the clot is formed, there will be no more bleeding. Okay, the blood loss is going to be stopped. This clot is made up of proteins. It's proteinaceous in nature, and the main protein which forms the base of this clot is fibrinogen. In the series of reactions which take fibrinogen to the final clot, vitamin K is involved. Vitamin K is needed for these reactions to take place. And this whole thing, this whole setup starts once platelets are activated. They will initiate this process. So actual clotting of blood would take place with the platelets. So if platelets are not there, this clotting function is going to become impaired. And in a lot of diseases also, like in dengue. Remember dengue? What is the cause of dengue? मॉस्किटो भी गलत, क्यूलेक्स भी गलत, दोनों चीजें गलत. Okay, we studied diseases, so go back to that to get a flashback of that. We said there are pathogens and then there are mode of transmissions. Air, water, soil, mosquito was a mode of transmission. Okay. So mode of transmission and pathogen are different. So mode of transmission, you have come to that correctly. Yes, it is going to be a mosquito. Okay, Aedes mosquito to be specific. But again, what is this mosquito carrying? Pathogen क्या है? जैसे malaria, female anopheles mosquito is the vector. Pathogen is plasmodium. Dengue का pathogen क्या है? It's a virus. Dengue is a viral disease, so there is a dengue virus. This is the cause of dengue. Okay. This virus is carried by that mosquito. Okay. Now, in dengue, what happens is this virus attacks the platelets, destroys them, and even prevents formation of platelets. So, platelet count बहुत कम हो जाता है, and the challenge to that is that there can be internal bleeding in the body. And if there is internal bleeding, there will be no way to stop that bleeding because of low platelet count. Okay. In the COVID-19, vaccine situation, Covishield also, there's a similar problem where there's some abnormality with the platelets because of which bleeding can take place, and those bleeding, excessive bleeding can result in large clots being formed, which would lead to death of a person. That's the rare complication of that vaccine which has come out. Okay. So platelets in that sense, very important to start the clotting process of the body. The last category of blood cells are the white blood cells, or they are called leukocytes. White blood cells or leukocytes. All right. Now look at the white blood cells. There are many types of white blood cells. What is the function of white blood cells in our body? Defense mechanism, immunity, right? We've studied them with immunity. So they provide immunity. We have two categories, 3 cells in each category. This first category you can see here, they have dotted structures in their cytoplasm. Can you see that? Right? So this is one type. The second type is without these structures or granules. They are called granules. So some white blood cells have granules in their cytoplasm. Some white blood cells do not have these granules. This gives us the two variations. So we will talk about both these types. You can write this also. First is called agranulocytes. Agranulocytes, and with this you can write it does not contain granules. It does not contain granules in its cytoplasm. It does not contain granules in its cytoplasm. Then under agranulocytes, the first one is monocyte. Monocytes, they are for innate immunity. Monocytes provide innate immunity to the body. And we have lymphocytes. Lymphocytes, we've talked about lymphocytes today also. They provide acquired immunity. Now within lymphocytes you have two categories: B cells, antibody mediated response, and T cells, they give us cell mediated response. After this, we talk about the granulocytes. Please write granulocytes. They contain granules in their cytoplasm. Granulocytes contain granules in their cytoplasm. Now we'll see which are the granulocytes. We have three cells here. Neutrophils. Neutrophils for innate immunity. Neutrophils for innate immunity. Then basophils. Basophils for inflammation. Inflammation of the body. We studied about inflammation when we studied hepatitis. So that inflammation is because of basophils. And we have eosinophils, which are for allergic reactions. Eosinophils, which are for allergic reactions. Inflammation is an immune response. It is kind of a protective response. Like somebody has asked here about mosquito bite. Okay. So any region where the body is facing some problem, जैसे mosquito bite हो या कोई organ काम नहीं कर रहा है, कुछ दिक्कत है, तो उसमें these cells will create all those features of high temperature, there's going to be swelling, redness, because blood will collect here. All the white blood cells in a high number will come and try and manage that situation to bring it back to normal. So all these responses, allergic response is also a protective response of the body. That body's exaggerated response or overactivity, which suddenly happens, is kind of a mechanism to protect from something which might be very harmful. So severe response the body gives in that sense. Blood is under skin or in vessels. Blood is in the blood vessels. Blood vessels which goes to lungs cover the overall body of alveoli, where they get oxygen and transport them to the heart. See, ये जो blood vessels हैं, इनके further branches भी होंगे. Okay, we've studied the names of blood vessels, but they will divide further to reach each and every part, each and every corner of the body. And lungs have their own supply line. Like in that, they mentioned systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation separately and specified that lungs are not going to be a part of it because lungs अपनी supply line अलग maintain करते हैं. What is the reason we say when we have a hole in the heart? Hole in the heart is simply a gap in the chambers. यहाँ पे अगर कोई improper partition हो या इस partition में कहीं पे hole हो, that is the hole in the heart, which can lead to abnormal mixing of blood. The last topic which we have to do here is the blood groups. So do you know your blood groups? Good, you should. Everybody must know their blood groups. When we talk about blood groups, we talk about this on two levels. One we say is the ABO classification or ABO type, जिसमें है A, B, AB and O. Another way to describe your blood group is through the RH classification, RH type, where you have positive and negative blood group. So when you will describe your blood group, you are going to combine both of these. A positive, AB negative, like that. It's one of these combinations will be your blood groups. Okay. Now, how this is decided? What is creating this distinction in the blood of different people is certain structures present on the surface of red blood cells. The surface of red blood cells contains special features called antigens, which are responsible for red blood cells of different people being different and us having all of these blood groups. Different blood groups in people basically means the red blood cells show some variation. There is some variation on the surface of red blood cells. We have these different antigens present in different blood types. In ABO types, there are two antigens, A and B. If a red blood cells contain antigen A, the blood group is A. If it contains antigen B, the blood group is B. Sometimes both these structures are present, so the blood group becomes AB. And sometimes A भी नहीं है, B भी नहीं है, both of these are not there. So we say it is 0 or O. I'll show you the diagram for this. So this is antigen A. They've shown it with a specific color and a shape, triangle green color. If this antigen is present on the surface of red blood cells, we say it is blood group A. If this second shape, second color antigen, which we are calling antigen B, if this is present, it becomes blood group B. If both A and B antigens are present on the red blood cells, it is AB. और अगर A भी नहीं है, B भी नहीं है, it will be O. So the names of these blood groups are dependent on their antigen. जो antigen है वही उसका नाम है. A है तो A, B है तो B, AB and O. In RH type, also there is an antigen, but here there is only one antigen. The antigen is RH antigen, or the full form is rhesus. This antigen was first identified from a species of monkey called rhesus monkey. So this antigen got its name as RH. This classification is more simpler. अगर RH antigen present है, you say positive for RH. अगर RH antigen नहीं है, you say absent for RH or negative for RH. So overall, you will see all these three antigens, and based on that, you will call out your blood group. Now, do you remember what an antigen was in the immune system? It stimulates the immune system, right? That's the definition of antigen. And we also mentioned this yesterday, that immune system does not attack its own cells, right? So antigen जो है हर red blood cell पे present है, but it is not going to stimulate the person's own immune system, even if it is present. Immune system knows कि अपने system से activate नहीं होना है, अपने system को attack नहीं करना है. But this antigenic activity will come into play when you have the blood coming from outside. So the concept of blood transfusion we are going to talk about here. Blood transfusion means when you give blood of one person to another person. Now tell me, why would we need to do that? Why would we need to give blood of one person to another person? If there is deficiency in any disease, or if there is loss because of accident or injury or anything, right? And I'm sure you are aware that blood is not given as such. There is a specific matching which is done, right? पहले match करते हैं, फिर किसी का blood किसी को देते हैं. ठीक है? So we'll understand how that matching works. In blood transfusion, there are two people. One is a donor and the second is a recipient. Now, one person's blood is going into the body of another. So, recipient की body के लिए donor का blood foreign material है, non-self है. So, here the antigen-antibody reaction is going to be there. ठीक है? So, donor has antigens. The blood has antigen on the surface of its red blood cells. This blood goes into the body of the recipient. Okay. Now, for the recipient body, this antigen is capable of stimulating its immune system. What happens when the immune system is stimulated to an antigen? What is the response? Antibody production. So, ये recipient की body can make antibodies against the antigen which has come from outside. So here the antigenic activity will come into play. When antibodies are produced, antibodies are released in the plasma. In the plasma of blood. While the recipient is making antibodies, there is just one specific point it has to remember, that it also has antigens. So while it is trying to destroy the donor's antigens, it also has to take care to protect its own antigens. ठीक है, जैसे सपोज एक there's a person, he has blood group A. Having blood group A means उसके पास antigen A है. And if this person prepares antibody a corresponding antibody for A, in case of a transfusion or any situation, then ये antibody A antigen को destroy कर देगा and the person's whole blood is going to get destroyed. That's going to be destroyed, it'll clot, it'll get stuck in the blood vessel, the person will die. So no immune system will make antibodies against its own antigens. How that plays out here is, if we look for which antibody a particular blood group can make, so A है, A blood group person has antigen A, will never make antibody A. But अगर इस तरह की situation में there is a need, it can produce antibody B. ठीक है, there is no problem with producing antibody B. Similarly, B blood group, it will not prepare antibody B, but it can make antibody A. There is no problem with that. AB has both the antigens. Can it make any of these antibodies? No. Any of these antibodies it makes, it will damage its own blood cells, which it does not want. Then O blood group can make both, क्योंकि इसके पास कोई एंटीजन नहीं है, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, एंटी ए भी बना सकता है, एंटी बी भी बना सकता है. Similarly for RH, यहाँ पे एक एंटीजन है, so there's one antibody we will talk about, anti-RH antibody. If antigen is present, then antibody will be absent. And if antigen is absent, antibody can be present, can be formed. Let's apply this, then it will make a little bit more sense. Okay. Suppose there is a donor with blood group A, there is a recipient with blood group B. ठीक है? So donor's blood goes into the recipient's body starts looking for antigens. What antigen is present in blood group A? So A antigen is present in blood group A. Which antibody can B make? A antibody. B will recognize this antigen and will start making antibodies. So antibody A it can make. Antibody A जितना बाहर से blood आया with antigen A, it's going to destroy it. Blood is going to clot. It will get stuck. The person can even die if timely intervention is not given here. But ये transfusion होगा unsuccessful. We cannot do this transfusion. This is what we say. This is not a match. ठीक है? If you apply this to RH type again, now, say donor is RH negative, recipient is RH positive. This is the standard rule. You'll get a lot of questions on these this concept, but the questions will be applied questions. Okay, ये transfusion हो सकता है या नहीं हो सकता, things like that. So remember this basic rule. Donor antigen, recipient antibody. ठीक है? So RH negative blood group में antigen है, बोर्ड पे लिखा है, इतना सोचने वाली बात नहीं है. RH नेगेटिव में फिर से देखो, एंटीजन है एब्सेंट, ठीक है, सो देर इज नो एंटीजन हेयर, एंड RH पॉजिटिव जो रिसिपिएंट है, कैन इट मेक एंटीबॉडी? देखो बोर्ड पे लिखा है, सबका आंसर सेम होना चाहिए। RH पॉजिटिव एंटीबॉडी बना सकता है? नो। So no antigen, no antibody, no interaction, no reaction, successful transfusion. ठीक है? Now I'll show you a question. UPSC ने एक question पूछा है इस पे. You will solve that question and then you will come to know if you followed this or not. Please lift your pen, paper, use them and give me the answer. Okay, B and A. I have one option as a D also. A man whose blood group is not known meets with with a serious accident and needs blood transfusion immediately. So there is a person who needs blood. That means we have a recipient who needs blood, but we don't know his blood group. Okay. Which one of the blood groups mentioned below? So there are four blood groups mentioned below. They are available in the hospital. Out of these four, which can be used for transfusion? ठीक है. सो रिसिपिएंट हमें पता नहीं, इस रिसिपिएंट के लिए हमको डोनर ढूंढना है. लेट्स गो टू आवर चार्ट. If you don't know the recipient, you don't know which antibody it can form. ठीक है, वो एक एंटीबॉडी बना सकता है, दो बना सकता है, हो सकता है ना बनाए. You have no idea about the antibodies because you don't know about the recipient. Now your best chance for a successful transfusion will be if you give a donor without an antigen. Because antibodies will be formed and they will interact only with an antigen. If there is no antigen, there is no problem. So we are looking for a blood which has no antigens. So out of ABO type, which blood has no antigens? Right? O has no antigens. So we write O. And between positive and negative, which does not have the antigen? फिर से मैंने बताया था कि जो बोर्ड पे लिखा है उसमें सबका आंसर सेम होना चाहिए. फिर से बताओ, which out of positive negative does not have the antigen? नेगेटिव. RH नेगेटिव में एंटीजन नहीं होता है, पॉजिटिव में होता है. सो दिस विल बी ORH नेगेटिव. And this makes this the universal donor. It can donate blood to all blood types because there is no antigen. This blood group, when it will go to any person's body, any recipient, then it is going to be not having any reaction क्योंकि reaction के लिए antigen है ही नहीं. If I ask you now universal recipient, a blood group which can receive blood from all blood types. If a blood group has to receive blood from all types, he should not have any blood related antibodies. If the recipient does not make any of these antibodies, he'll be able to receive blood because whatever blood comes in, there will be no reaction. So between ABO type, which blood group has no antibody produced? AB cannot produce an antibody. And between positive and negative, where there is no antibody? Positive. ABRH positive. This becomes your universal recipient. That is fine, that it is rarely available. There are less number of people. But if it is a person, then uski compatibility, basically we are saying, is with everyone. Out of this question, then the answer is going to be ORH negative, option A. ठीक है. Because of presence. Okay. What is the difference between antigen and pathogen? Okay. What is the difference between antigen and pathogen? Any idea? We discussed this a lot yesterday also. Pathogen is a disease causing organism, that is fine. Can a pathogen act as an antigen? Can a pathogen come into the body and stimulate the immune system? Right, right. So फिर दोनों terms में क्या difference है? Path Antigen is a bigger term, okay. और ये भी तो एंटीजन था ना, राइट? सी एंटीजन एक जनरल टर्म है, ब्रॉडर टर्म है फ्रॉम द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ द इम्यून सिस्टम, विच मीन्स एनीथिंग विच कैन कम एंड स्टिमुलेट द इम्यून सिस्टम. पैथोजन भी आके इम्यून सिस्टम स्टिमुलेट कर सकता है. इस तरह से फॉरेन सेल्स आए हैं, वी आर सेइंग कि इसमें भी एंटीजन होता है. फॉरेन बाहर से और बहुत सारी चीजें आ सकती हैं, कुछ केमिकल्स आ सकते हैं. अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स कैन बी एन एंटीजन. Pathogen or disease causing organism is just one part of that. Okay, that's a more wider term. Antigen is a more wider term. What happen if we give blood? अच्छा ये पहले ही पूछ लिया था. I think Ankita, I hope your question has been answered now. Lymphatic fluid. Okay. So we have something called lymph also, which is a fluid जिसमें lymphocytes होंगे. B cells, T cells. T cells attack with antibodies. No. How do T cells attack? What is the mechanism of T cells attacking? Phagocytosis. Okay. Phagocytosis or direct attack of cells. No antibodies produced. What about Bombay blood group and its characteristics? See, इस blood group classification के अलावा there are many other blood groups which are less common. In terms of the number of people who have a blood group, कुछ बहुत सारे smaller blood groups भी हैं. There are blood groups whose population number is as small as like less than 50 people also. That rare a blood group. Different blood groups are going to ultimately be based on what antigens they contain. ठीक है? I'll tell you about Bombay blood group as you asked that specifically. इसके अलावा और भी एंटीजेंस हैं. So when other antigens will be involved, we can have some different blood groups. The mechanism is going to be the same. Antigen antibody reaction, that is going to be still the same. So एक एंटीजन है जिसको बोलते हैं एंटीजन H. This antigen H is a precursor to ABO type. प्रीकर्सर टू एबीओ टाइप मीन्स कि एबीओ में जितने ब्लड ग्रुप्स होते हैं उन सब में एंटीजन एच होता है. सो ब्लड ग्रुप ए, बी, ए बी एंड इवन ओ, दे ऑल हैव एंटीजन एच. ठीक है. बट सम रेयर people, some rare blood group can be without antigen H. And this blood group was identified first in Bombay. Because of that, it is called the Bombay blood group. So here there is no antigen H. और एंटीजन H प्रीकर्सर है, दैट मीन्स बाकी के भी जो दो एंटीजन है वो भी नहीं होंगे. नो एंटीजन H, नो एंटीजन B. ये सब इसमें एब्सेंट. दिस इज अ स्पेशल ब्लड ग्रुप विद दिस स्पेसिफिक एंटीजन H मिसिंग. कैन यू थिंक ऑफ एंड टेल मी कि इसके पास एंटीबॉडीज कौन सी बन सकती हैं इन बॉम्बे ब्लड ग्रुप? एच एंटीजन है तो उसकी भी एंटीबॉडी होगी. तो इसमें एंटीबॉडी H बन सकता है, एंटीबॉडी A बन सकता है, एंटीबॉडी B बन सकता है. अब इसमें डोनर रिसिपिएंट का कॉन्सेप्ट लगाओ. रिमेंबर दैट रूल, डोनर एंटीजन, रिसिपिएंट एंटीबॉडी. कैन दिस डोनेट ब्लड टू एनी ऑफ द ABO टाइप्स? इसके पास कोई एंटीजन नहीं है, so this is a perfect donor, right? It can donate to all blood groups including O. What about being a recipient? Can it receive blood? It can only receive from other people of Bombay blood group. That is what makes this very significant, because for a person with Bombay blood group, if they are ever in need of blood, they'll have to find out another person with Bombay blood group, because they are making all the antibodies, so they'll not be able to receive blood from any of the ABO type people. And that's why there are so many movies, so many stories also based on that. कि बॉम्बे ब्लड ग्रुप वाले पर्सन को किसी और देश में से कई बार ढूंढ के लाना पड़ता है दूसरा बंदा. क्या एग्जाम्पल ऑफ मूवी? अंधाधुन. हैव यू सीन अंधाधुन? Right? So Andhadhun mein Tabu has Bombay blood group, and that's why she's kidnapped, because there is some very rich person whose son needs a transplant. The son is also a Bombay blood group person. So उसके लिए तब्बू को किडनैप करके ले जाते हैं कि इसकी पता नहीं किडनी या जो भी किडनी आई थिंक लेना होता है, तो वो इसी का ले सकते हैं. ये जब MCQ सॉल्व करते हैं ना, बहुत लोग बहुत एक्स्ट्रा लॉजिक लगाते हैं, उसकी वजह से क्वेश्चन फंस जाता है, जो नॉर्मल क्वेश्चन भी होता है. द क्वेश्चन हैज रिटन रेडिली अवेलेबल इन द हॉस्पिटल बट O नेगेटिव इज रेयर. अरे उनके हॉस्पिटल में होगा कोई बंदा जिसका O नेगेटिव है? ये क्या क्वेश्चन करने वाली बात है? उन्होंने लिख दिया, ये थ्योरी है, थ्योरी. इतना इसमें एक्सट्रीम लॉजिक नहीं लगा सकते. ओके, even if it is rare, it doesn't mean that nobody in the world has. कहीं तो होंगे वो लोग, कहीं छुपे होंगे, कहीं से निकलेंगे जिन लोगों का O नेगेटिव है. होगा, ये जो पर्टिकुलर हॉस्पिटल है इसमें है. ओके, ठीक है. We'll take a break here. We've completed the circulatory system and different organ systems, and we start with genetics after this. Okay. So we will talk about the different systems of glands in our body. Gland means any organ which is producing certain chemicals, which is giving out certain secretions. The first category is an exocrine gland, where chemicals are produced in this organ, and then there is a system of tubes through which this will go into the next location. Like yesterday we studied about the liver. Remember the liver? What does the liver produce? Bile, right? Bile would come out of this through a system of ducts, tubes, and will go into the small intestine where it is supposed to act. There are some glands which don't have these tubes or ducts. And how they release their secretions is, like, this is the gland, it's producing some chemicals, and these will go directly into the blood. It is surrounded all around by blood, and blood, is connected to all parts of the body. So blood can then take it to any part where it needs to go. The chemicals released from such glands, the ductless glands, they are called hormones, and the gland is called endocrine gland. This is basically the system we have to study, the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a system for chemical coordination in the body. This is going to be stimulating different parts of the body to do certain different functions. So these chemicals provide that stimulus, provide that message to different organs to do different functions. So we'll be learning about the endocrine system. We'll be learning about how the different glands, endocrine glands work, and we'll talk about hormones, the chemicals produced from endocrine glands, which are the hormones. What are the different hormones? What is their function? We'll study about all of that. Please give the heading endocrine system and write one line. Endocrine system. It is meant for internal communication. It is meant for internal communication and regulation of the human body. Hormones are the secretions of endocrine glands which do not have ducts and are secreted directly into the blood to be transported to distantly located target organs. We are going to take a look at the endocrine system and all the different endocrine glands which are present here. So we have different glands. First in the brain, you have hypothalamus and pituitary. Then in your neck, you have thyroid and parathyroid glands. After that, on top of your kidneys here, you have the adrenal glands. Then there is pancreas. If you remember, we studied pancreas with digestive system also. Okay, so pancreas is one organ which does both the things. It produces digestive enzymes also, and it is producing hormones also. After that, you have your sex organs, the ovaries in female and testes in male. They also produce some hormones. So we are going to talk about all these parts one by one, and we are going to see what hormones they produce. You need to know the names of the hormones, and we'll briefly be talking about what functions they do. For endocrine system, it's very important that you remember that this system is very, very sensitive. All hormones in the body need to be maintained at an appropriate level. Any fluctuations in these hormones, when hormones become less or when they become more, that causes some serious problems, which some of those problems also we will be talking about. But here the range is very narrow. You cannot afford to have a very wide variation in how much a particular amount of hormone is going to be there in the body. Okay. First, please write hypothalamus. First endocrine gland, hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is linked to the pituitary gland. And the job of hypothalamus is to stimulate the pituitary gland. Pituitary is another endocrine gland, but it will function only when it has received signal from hypothalamus. Hypothalamus signal dega, then it will start working and accordingly it will stop working. So there are two hormones for this function. First is releasing hormone. Please write releasing hormone. Releasing hormone. It stimulates the pituitary gland. It stimulates the pituitary gland to release its secretions. It stimulates the pituitary gland to release its secretions. And then inhibiting hormone. Second hormone is inhibiting hormone. It inhibits the release of secretions. It inhibits the release of secretions from the pituitary gland. So this is like an on-off switch for the pituitary. Releasing hormones aayega, pituitary will start working. Inhibiting aayega, pituitary will stop working. When we talk about pituitary now, pituitary is a very important endocrine gland. It has two parts, anterior and posterior. Anterior, posterior basically means front and back of the gland. And both these parts, they produce their own hormones. So we'll talk about both these. First, we'll talk about anterior pituitary, then posterior pituitary. So you can write anterior pituitary gland. Anterior pituitary gland. The first hormone here is the thyroid stimulating hormone. First is thyroid stimulating hormone. Just like hypothalamus was stimulating the pituitary, this hormone is now going to be stimulating the next endocrine gland, which is the thyroid gland. So this gives signals to thyroid so that it can start producing its hormones. So please write for TSH. It stimulates the thyroid gland to produce its hormones. It stimulates the thyroid gland to produce its hormones. Then the second hormone which we have here is prolactin. Prolactin is for formation of milk. Please write with prolactin, it is for formation of milk. See, milk formation is not a function which is needed in everyone, but everyone has prolactin. Men, all women of all age groups, everyone has prolactin. The variation is in the amount of prolactin. Females who are pregnant and lactating, where actual milk formation function is needed, they will have the higher amount of prolactin. Otherwise, for all hormones, this is the case. There is no exclusion that, okay, this will not be present in any particular age group or anything like that. Hormones are there, but their amount can vary. So everybody has prolactin. Then you have adrenocorticotropic hormone or ACTH. Adrenocorticotropic hormone or ACTH. By the end of this discussion, you automatically learn ho jayega. Because you'll understand how this is being formed. So give it 20 more minutes. Okay. Now, just like TSH is stimulating the thyroid, this is stimulating the adrenal gland. Okay. So please write, it stimulates the adrenal gland. It stimulates the adrenal gland to release its hormones. To release its hormones. Then next is follicle stimulating hormone or FSH. Follicle stimulating hormone or FSH. Now this is linked to the reproductive function. So what it is supposed to do is, it helps in formation of sperms and eggs. So please write for FSH, it helps in development of eggs, and formation of sperms. Development of eggs and formation of sperms. Next is growth hormone. Now, just like the name suggests, this is for growth of the body. Okay. So please write, it helps in growth and development of the body. It helps in growth and development of the body. Now see, level of this hormone or any abnormality in it, the most common manifestation or how we will be able to see it will be in the form of height. So we can have a condition called dwarfism. If growth hormone is less, then people can have abnormally short height. The dwarfs who are there, या बौने लोग जो होते हैं, that is an abnormality of growth hormone. Or the opposite case, gigantism, or people who are giants, right? Abnormally tall, 7 feet plus, that kind of height. Somebody like Khali. You know Khali? So that is an abnormality of growth hormone, excess production of growth hormone in the body. Last hormone here in anterior pituitary, luteinizing hormone. This is also associated with the reproductive system, but here for production of sex hormones. So please write, it stimulates the sex organs. It stimulates the sex organs to produce sex hormones. To produce sex hormones. Now we'll talk a little bit more about this whole reproductive process so that this whole thing makes sense. So for reproduction or sexual reproduction, you have two types of organisms. You have males and you have females. And there is a variation in their system. So the first difference is in their sex organs. So they have different sex organs, or the other term for sex organs is gonads. The male sex organ or the male gonad is testes, and for females it is ovary. Now it is this organ, these organs which are going to produce the cells which will help in reproduction. They're also going to produce hormones, the sex hormones. So we will see what they are. First is your sex cells or reproductive cells, or the technical term is gametes. The male gamete is the sperm and the female gamete is the egg, or it is also called ovum. It is these reproductive cells which will be formed in the testes and the ovary. They are going to come together, they are going to fuse, egg and sperm fusing together. That is how a new organism, a baby, is going to be formed. This is the starting point of that. Sperm from the male, egg from the female. For this to happen normally, and for all the other features which we associate with males and females, you have sex hormones which are needed in the body. In males, you have testosterone, and in females, you have estrogen, progesterone. Now, the pituitary gland, or that specific part of the brain, that is also associated in stimulating this system. ये system, reproductive system, gonad से ही operate होगा, but to stimulate this system, you have two hormones of pituitary. And you have to remember the distinction of these hormones very clearly. FSH, you can go back and see what you have written. FSH is for the gametes. FSH is for proper formation of gametes, and it is LH which is linked with the endocrine function. The luteinizing hormone is stimulating hormone formation. So endocrine function से luteinizing hormone linked है, and FSH is linked with gamete formation. When people get their fertility levels checked, like somebody who is trying to have a baby might want to check that, okay, what is the state of my reproductive system, what is the state of my fertility. So all these things are going to be examined in that. Sex organs, then the cells, sperms kaise hain, eggs kaise hain, then what is the level of these sex hormones which are produced by these gonads, and along with all this, the two pituitary hormones, their levels are also going to be evaluated. Because agar FSH kam hai ya zyada hai, there will be some abnormality in the gametes. Their formation is not going to be proper. And if LHS level is less, these hormones will also not be produced properly. So they are very important in the whole reproductive system and in maintenance of fertility. ठीक है? Okay. With this we go to posterior pituitary gland. Here you have only two hormones. First one is antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin. Antidiuretic hormone ADH or vasopressin. This is now associated with the working of kidneys. So kidneys mein, we've just studied today, what was happening was that blood was coming to the kidneys, right? And then kidney was evaluating, keeping the waste water with itself and then sending this back. So the water which the body needed, the minerals which the body needed, that whole thing would be going back into the blood. This going back from the kidneys into the blood, this function is controlled by ADH. ADH does this job, which is reabsorption of water and minerals from the kidneys. Please write this for ADH. It helps in reabsorption of water and minerals, reabsorption of water and minerals from the kidneys. Now think of a situation, suppose I say that ADH is less. Okay. What do you think will happen to the body? What happens to the body? इसका काम है पानी वापस भेजना, ठीक है? तो ADH कम होगा, कम पानी वापस जाएगा बॉडी में, राइट? सो व्हाट हैपेंस? Dehydration, right? Simplified condition is dehydration, less water going into the blood or into the body. Now, in this case, what will happen is the person is going to feel dehydrated, the person is going to be very thirsty. At the same time, the next thing is, where will the water go? अगर बॉडी में नहीं जा रहा है तो कहाँ जाएगा पानी? It will be added to the urine, right? So there will be increased urine output. A person who has less ADH, he will be thirsty, the body will be dehydrated. At the same time, urine output will increase, more urination, frequent urination. This is actually termed as a disease called diabetes insipidus. You need to remember this name because this can be confusing with another disease which you know. The diabetes which you know, the sugar wala diabetes, this is not that diabetes. This has nothing to do with that diabetes. This is a different disease where vasopressin is less and there is excessive urination, there is increased thirst, there is dehydration of the body. We will talk about that other diabetes also when we come to pancreas. Okay, here just remember this name, diabetes insipidus. Next is oxytocin. Oxytocin. So oxytocin is released during many situations in the body, but one of the most significant things about oxytocin is it is released during childbirth. During that actual process when the baby is coming out, the process of labor, during that time oxytocin is released. Okay, so please write oxytocin It is released during childbirth. It is released during childbirth. Coming to your neck, you have thyroid and parathyroid gland. First, you'll write thyroid gland, thyroid gland, thyroid hormone or thyroxine. Thyroid hormone or thyroxine. Do you remember which nutrient was involved with thyroid? Iodine. Iodine is a part of the structure of the thyroid hormone. The structure of thyroid hormone that contains iodine. This is a hormone which is going to help in metabolism in the body. Metabolism means how nutrients come into the body, how they are broken down, how they will be used, how they will be stored, how they will be removed from the body. That whole cycle, that is your metabolism. So please write, it helps in metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Now see, you would have come across people having thyroid diseases. A lot of people these days have some thyroid related problem. In that case, two situations can be there. There can be a situation that the thyroid gland works less. We call that hypothyroid, or a situation where thyroid works more. That will be hyperthyroid. So when people have thyroid diseases, they can have one of these two conditions. How it impacts the body is, if the thyroid works less, that means metabolism will be slow. This person whose thyroid is working less is not going to be able to properly process all the food. This person is going to be putting on weight. He will be feeling very cold. He is going to be having a kind of a lethargic life. He'll be lazy. And the opposite case of hyperthyroid, that will be when metabolism is very fast. Everything that person needs is quickly consumed. The person will be losing weight. The person will be feeling very hot all the time. The person is going to be sweating a lot. So all those features which you can think of, which can be associated with higher activity, that happens when thyroid works more, and lower activity when thyroid works less. Okay. So when the people have thyroid diseases, it could be one of these two situations. Coming to parathyroid now. Parathyroid gland with parathyroid hormone. This is for metabolism of calcium and phosphate. Metabolism of calcium and phosphate. How calcium and phosphate is going to be used in the body, that's decided by the parathyroid hormone. Next gland we have is the adrenal gland. Goiter is going to be a hypothyroid condition because it is deficiency. And that's a specific nutritional deficiency of iodine. Right? So next is adrenal gland. Adrenal gland has two parts. You have the central part, which is adrenal medulla. You have the outer part, which is adrenal cortex. Okay. See, renal is the term used for kidneys. Like you have pulmonary for lungs, cardiac for heart, renal is for kidneys. So on top of kidneys, adrenal. Both these parts, medulla and cortex, they are both going to produce two hormones, and we are going to see which are those hormones and what they are doing. Have you heard about adrenaline? When is adrenaline released? Fear. Okay. So, adrenal medulla is the emergency center of the body. And adrenaline is that emergency hormone. So, see, first of all, you need to write both these hormones together. Adrenaline, noradrenaline released from adrenal medulla, they are like a team. They work together. We say their response is in synergy. When they will work is when the emergency situations can be when you are suddenly, when you are scared, there is fear, you are frightened, you are anxious, you are overexcited. In all these situations, these hormones will be released. Like a lot of adventure sports. With them, this term adrenaline or adrenaline rush is associated. Like you decide to fall off a building, no. Jump off a building, skydiving, okay. So in that, you'll be scared, there'll be some anxiety, there'll be some thrill, there will be some excitement. So combination of all of that, when that is happening, the adrenaline or adrenaline production will take place. Okay. Please write for adrenal medulla. Adrenal medulla, adrenaline and noradrenaline. They are the emergency hormones. You write together about them. They are the emergency hormones of the body. They are the emergency hormones of the body, which are released in times of fear, being frightened, in times of fear, being frightened, afraid, anxious or excited. Anxious or excited. Coming to adrenal cortex. See, ACTH we mentioned. ACTH is stimulating only the cortex. You can write that about ACTH or here only you can add. क्योंकि medulla तो emergency center है. Emergency center cannot wait for somewhere else for the signal to come. This has to act immediately. So only adrenal cortex is stimulated by the pituitary hormone ACTH. There are two hormones here, mineralocorticoid, which is also called aldosterone, and glucocorticoid, which is called cortisol. So first write down mineralocorticoid. Mineralocorticoid or aldosterone. It regulates the balance of water and minerals. It regulates the balance of water and minerals, thus maintaining the blood pressure. सी जो वाटर और मिनरल्स हैं बॉडी में वो ब्लड में है, राइट? ऑल द वाटर विच यू हैव इट इज इन ब्लड. So anything which is regulating that is ultimately maintaining the volume of blood, how much blood is going to be there, and indirectly that is going to manage the pressure of that blood. So out of the many reasons which you can have because of which there could be problems of blood pressure, one thing could be abnormal amounts of aldosterone in the body. अगर इसका लेवल सही नहीं है ब्लड प्रेशर में वेरिएशन हो सकता है. देन नेक्स्ट इज ग्लूकोकॉर्टिकॉइड और कॉर्टिसोल. ग्लूकोकॉर्टिकॉइड और कॉर्टिसोल, this is for carbohydrate metabolism in the body. Carbohydrate metabolism in the body. And this hormone cortisol is actually very famous these days because there's a lot of research happening on cortisol and its linkage with stress. The whole idea of stress eating. When you are stressed, you eat more, you eat abnormal foods, and there is more fat deposition in those cases. That is linked to how carbohydrates can be consumed in the body. And cortisol, they say, increases when the stress level increases. So there is a lot of discussion, a lot of research happening on levels of cortisol. The last gland we have now is pancreas. For pancreas, the first thing which you need to know is that it has both exocrine and endocrine parts. So exocrine mein it is making digestive enzymes, and there is another part which is endocrine which is making hormones. So because of this, we are calling it a mixed gland. Mixed gland because इसमें exocrine parts भी हैं, endocrine parts भी हैं. So this is a mixed gland. The two hormones which you have here, insulin and glucagon, they are going to be linked with how glucose is consumed in the body. We have studied about glucose. What is the function of glucose in the body? Production of energy. ठीक है? And where are you getting this glucose from? From the food, right? We're eating food, it's being broken down, उसमें से glucose आता है. And that glucose, it will be going in the blood from your intestine, and then वहाँ से it's going to be used in all parts of the body. Sometimes what happens is we are getting more glucose in our body than the amount of energy which we need. Okay, so in that case, what the body does is it will store this glucose for any future need. कि अगर future में कभी glucose कम हुआ, then the stored form can be used. What is the stored form of glucose in your body? Glycogen. Okay, so glycogen is the stored form. So blood में से glucose को निकाल के glycogen के form में it's going to be stored. And in future, if there is a need, this glycogen can be converted back into glucose, send it to blood so that different parts of the body can use it. Now these two pancreatic hormones, insulin and glucagon, they are involved in these two reactions. Insulin is linked to glucose being removed from blood and taken to form glycogen, and glucagon is going to be involved in glycogen being converted back to glucose. So जब इंसुलिन काम करेगा ब्लड में ग्लूकोज कम हो जाएगा, right? Insulin is going to remove the glucose from the blood, and glucagon, when it is going to be acting, it will increase the glucose in blood. So you can write this. Please write for insulin. Insulin decreases blood glucose levels. Insulin decreases blood glucose levels, and for glucagon increases blood glucose levels. Glucagon increases blood glucose levels. ठीक है. Now the idea of diabetes. We have this disease, diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus is when insulin is less. So if insulin is less, what will happen to blood glucose? It will increase. Insulin का काम है कम करना. Insulin कम होगा तो the blood glucose level that is going to increase. या जिसको common language में बोलते हैं sugar increase हो गए. The specific sugar or the specific carbohydrate which is involved here is glucose. The common point between this diabetes and diabetes insipidus is the idea of frequent urination or more urine output. In this case, when a person has more glucose in the blood, this blood goes to the kidneys and kidneys know कि कौन सी चीज का क्या level होना चाहिए. So kidneys find कि ये glucose extra है body में. So kidneys try and remove this glucose. So with that, of course, more water will also be needed, and more water, more glucose means more urine output. So why people with diabetes have increased urine output is because their kidneys are trying to get rid of the extra glucose. And the glucose which is left, the extra glucose going around, moving around in the body, is going to be damaging different parts of the body. One of the first organs which gets impacted in diabetic people is their kidneys, because kidneys are now doing a lot of extra work to remove this extra glucose from the body. Okay, so people with diabetes, they are ideally suggested that they should reduce their sugar intake, the simple sugars which they take. See, as such, everything, the body will break down everything from roti to rice, or everything, all sources of carbohydrates will ultimately be broken down into glucose, क्योंकि glucose तो चाहिए energy produce करने के लिए. But the simple sugars which they will be consuming, that will just be an extra burden for the body, which already is not able to manage the glucose because insulin is not working properly. Yeah. See, the storage function itself is impaired. जो इंसुलिन का एक्शन है ग्लूकोज टू ग्लाइकोजन, वो ही अच्छे से नहीं हो पाता. तो उनकी जो स्टोरेज कैपेसिटी है या दैट चेंजिंग फॉर्म, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क प्रॉपर्ली. तो ग्लूकोज ब्लड में ही घूमता रहेगा. दैट इज द प्रॉब्लम है. ठीक है. ओके देन. UPSC used to ask a lot of questions on pituitary. It was its favorite gland. So see if you can answer this question. Turn your pages, find out the answer. C, okay. D. D, C, any other option D and C के अलावा? Pituitary gland, by virtue of its trophic hormones, controls the secretory activity of other endocrine glands. Which one of the following endocrine glands can function independent of pituitary gland? So if the question was just this much, this is also a complete statement. Okay, which of these glands can function independent of pituitary? That's basically what they are trying to ask you here. They've just given you one more statement, and in that also they have explained this term. ये एक standard term है, tropic hormone. Tropic hormone क्या होता है? See, hormone है तो that means endocrine gland से release होगा. That's the definition of a hormone. So एक gland से release हुआ ये hormone, and its function is to control the activity of another endocrine gland. So endocrine gland 1, endocrine gland 2. जब एक hormone endocrine gland पे ही act करे किसी और endocrine gland पे, the term used to describe such a hormone is trophic hormone. Okay, so now they are saying that pituitary has trophic hormones for which of these glands? Is there a hormone coming from pituitary for thyroid? TSH. For the gonads? LH. We have to look for endocrine function here. Endocrine function को stimulate कर रहा है LH. Adrenals, ACTH. Now see, ACTH में TH तो खुद ही tropic hormone है, ठीक है? So this term automatically gets fixed. And adrenal cortico is for adrenal cortex. Okay, adrenal cortex को stimulate करता है, tropic hormone है for adrenals, but we have no such hormone for parathyroid. So D, parathyroid, is going to be the answer. If our body needs energy to make glucose, then why does it need to store? See, it is storing because अगर उस टाइम पे एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है, राइट, वो फ्यूचर यूज के लिए सेव कर रहा है. ऐसा नहीं है कि पहले ग्लूकोज आएगा, बॉडी पहले स्टोर कर देगी फिर निकालेगी, अब एनर्जी बनाएगी. इतना 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 झंझट नहीं है, राइट. ग्लूकोज कम्स इनटू द बॉडी, योर बॉडी यूजेस व्हाटएवर इज इट्स करंट एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट. अब आपकी सारी एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट मीट हो चुकी है. इफ इवन आफ्टर दैट, इवन आफ्टर एनर्जी इज प्रोड्यूस्ड, देन ग्लूकोज इज एक्स्ट्रा, देन दैट एक्स्ट्रा ग्लूकोज विल बी स्टोर्ड, not to be used immediately, but any time in future where glucose is not available, then that stored one can be used, converted back to glucose. Okay, that's for future use. About the type of diabetes, see, when you talk about diabetes mellitus, the idea is going to be the same, that insulin is not working properly, but you can have different types depending on how that diabetes is being formed. There are people in which diabetes is congenital. From birth they have diabetes. Okay, so that becomes one category. The second category would be the lifestyle problems related diabetes, which usually happens later on. So we call the second type is type 2 diabetes. That's the more common type. And the one you have earlier, that's type 1 diabetes. As far as trophic hormone is really concerned, ट्रॉपिक हार्मोन का मतलब कोई भी हार्मोन which is released from one endocrine gland and stimulates another endocrine gland. जैसे कि TSH, okay, TSH let me take the example as TSH is the tropic hormone. Why TSH is the tropic hormone? क्योंकि एक endocrine gland है, pituitary gland, जिससे TSH release हो रहा है, and its action is on another endocrine gland, the thyroid gland. So एक endocrine gland से निकल रहा है, दूसरे को control कर रहा है. That when a hormone does that, that is going to be a tropic hormone. ठीक है? Okay. When we studied about the cell, we studied about genetic, sorry, anger, jealousy and love. Why do you think hormones regulate it? और भी body में बहुत mechanism है, but I guess anger, या अब आप किसी भी form में जो jealousy दे रहे हो, adrenaline will come into play, and love hormone वैसे oxytocin को बोलते हैं, but in that also there is a specific requirement of physical contact. That's how oxytocin is going to be released, through kissing, through hugging, those kind of where there is actual contact, that's when oxytocin is released. Okay, और बहुत सारे hormones और chemicals होते हैं, smaller ones which are released from different parts of the body, brain में होते हैं बहुत सारे. So the whole thing is supposed to create the euphoria which happens, or the doomsday state which is going to happen with all these different emotions. Okay. Okay. When we studied about the cell, we spoke about the genetic material. Do you remember what was the genetic material? DNA, right? DNA we said was the genetic material. And where was it present within the cell? Nucleus. Okay, very good. And what is this genetic material supposed to do? Okay, transfer information from one generation to the next. ठीक है, जैसे our hair, our eyes, the way we talk, that can be similar to that of our parents. How that information from the parents have come into our body is through the DNA. So ultimately, it is our DNA which is controlling all our features. How my liver will work, how my intestines will work, how my pancreas will work, all that is also determined by the DNA which I have. So DNA is the main genetic material. It is responsible for passing information from one organism to the other, and it is controlling the features of that organism. So this genetic material will be present in all living organisms. For functioning of each and every organism, we have genetic material. And when we study this, for that study of how genetic material works, how it is transferred from one generation to the other, the term used to describe that is genetics. Sorry. Okay. Please write genetics. Genetics is the study of genetic material and its inheritance from one generation to the next. From one generation to the next. Now the genetic material is DNA. We have another one, RNA. And if we look at their full forms, this is deoxyribose nucleic acid. nucleic acid and ribose nucleic acid. So basically, in its chemical form, it is a nucleic acid. If we look at what this is, basically what kind of compound it is a nucleic acid. So all living organisms, चाहे virus है, bacteria है, fungus है, plants है, all the organisms, they all have genetic material, and all their genetic material is in the form of nucleic acids. Okay, so we'll write this term now, nucleic acids, and then we'll learn what they are made up of. Please write nucleic acids. Nucleic acids, they are large molecules. They are large molecules which form the genetic material of all life forms. Which forms the genetic material of all life forms. They are responsible for transfer of characters from parents to offsprings, from parents to children, from parents to children or offsprings. Children, parents to children. Now what this nucleic acid is made up of, that is also universally the same. हर जगह पे जहाँ पे भी genetic material होगा और nucleic acid होगा, its composition will be the same, and there are 3 components. Please write, it contains, the next line in continuation, it contains a phosphate group, a pentose sugar, pentose sugar means it is a carbohydrate with 5 carbon atoms. Sugar is for carbohydrate, pentose means 5 carbon atoms. There are 2 pentose sugars. One is deoxyribose sugar and the second is ribose sugar. So हर न्यूक्लिक एसिड में एक फॉस्फेट ग्रुप होगा, एक पेंटोज शुगर होगी. पेंटोज शुगर could be either deoxyribose or ribose. Third component is nitrogenous base. There are different kinds of nitrogenous bases which are present in all nucleic acids. One category is called purines. Second category is called pyrimidines. See, you don't need structures, formulas of any of these, but you need to know all these names. Nitrogenous bases are of 2 types. You have purines and pyrimidines. And within that, further, in purines, you have 2 adenine. We will be using A to describe it. Guanine, G. Pyrimidines are 3. Cytosine, C. Thymine, T. And uracil, U. So wherever there are nucleic acids, wherever there is genetic material, it will always be made up of these 3 things: phosphate group, pentose sugar, nitrogenous base. We are going to see how they are going to be arranged further, and we'll talk about structure of DNA and RNA. Nucleic acids, we have 2 types of nucleic acids in nature. One is DNA, one is RNA, and we are going to look into what is their difference. So, types of nucleic acid. Types of nucleic acid. We have DNA and RNA. DNA, as I've written, I'll write again. This is deoxyribose nucleic acid. RNA is ribose nucleic acid. So one difference you can easily identify here. The difference is in the pentose sugar. शुगर अलग अलग है दोनों में पेंटोज शुगर है, but it is going to be different. So pentose sugar basically is a monosaccharide. Remember monosaccharides? It is a monosaccharides with 5 carbon atoms. So first point of difference is this contains deoxyribose sugar. RNA contains ribose sugar. Second point of difference is in the nitrogenous bases which are present. Okay, you see here there are 5 nitrogen bases, 2 purines, 2 pyrimidines, and in both your nucleic acids 4 of these are present. 4 nitrogenous bases will be present in DNA, 4 in RNA. So purines remain the same, the 2 purines will come, but 3 pyrimidines में से 2 will be there in both DNA and RNA. So in DNA you have adenine, guanine, cytosine, and you have thymine. And in RNA, you again have adenine, guanine, cytosine, but here you have uracil. So instead of thymine of DNA, there is uracil in RNA. The third point of difference is in the arrangement of the whole structure. RNA is mostly single-stranded. That means there is one strand, one ribbon-like structure, one long chain. DNA is mostly going to be double-stranded. I'm using the word commonly or mostly because there can be exceptions to this, though the exceptions are very, very rare. But DNA is going to have 2 strands, 2 chains, 2 ribbon-like structures. Okay. So 3 points of difference. One difference is in the sugar, second is in the nitrogenous base, third is in the arrangement. We're going to see the structure of DNA here, just so that we can arrange all this, how this whole thing is arranged. Then we'll write a few lines also. DNA is made up of 2 strands. These strands, the base is a sugar phosphate combination. We say this is a sugar phosphate backbone. The 2 strands, they have sugar and phosphate, and in between you have nitrogenous bases. You have purines, you have pyrimidines, and there is no specific rule as to how they will be arranged. Anything can come. Any random order can be there. Purine आ सकता है पहले, pyrimidine आ सकता है. So I'll write a sequence. In any random fashion, nitrogenous bases can be present on these strands. They follow a special rule here, which is called complementary base pairing. According to which purines can join to pyrimidines. But which purine joins to which pyrimidine, that is absolutely fixed. Adenine joins to thymine, there is a double bond, and guanine joins to cytosine, there is a triple bond here. This joining is supposed to keep the 2 strands together. Now, if you know what is there on one strand and you know this rule, that there is a complementary nitrogenous base to every base, you can easily tell me what will be there on the opposite strand. Can you tell me what will come here? A, okay. G, G, C, G, A, T, T, and T. In between, they'll form bonds. Oh, थोड़ा सा मेरा strand गलत हो गया, टेढ़ा हो गया. So extra imagination is now needed. Okay. So the bonds will form, will keep the 2 strands together. This whole structure, this whole setup, what will happen to this is, the real structure will be something like this. The 2 strands which we made as parallel lines, they are going to twist. Okay, this whole thing, this will twist on itself. You can see this blue thing, this is the sugar phosphate backbone. Okay, and in between these staircase like structures, this is the bonds formed, adenine with thymine, guanine with cytosine. Okay, and this whole spiral structure, we call this the double helix DNA. This is the final arrangement. Let's write a few lines on structure of DNA. Structure of DNA. The 2 strands of DNA, contain a sugar phosphate backbone. The two strands of DNA contain a sugar phosphate backbone. The nitrogenous bases present on the strands, the nitrogenous bases present on the strands pair up using complementary base pairing where adenine joins to thymine through a double bond, and guanine joins to cytosine through a triple bond. The two strands then twist together. The two strands then twist together into a spiral structure called the double helix DNA. And in this context, there are two more terms which are used to explain the structure of nucleic acids. When we talk about the pentose sugar and nitrogenous bases together, the term used is nucleoside. And when you have pentose sugar, nitrogenous base and phosphate group, all of them together, that means nucleoside plus phosphate group, it is called a nucleotide. So the structure of DNA is made up of multiple nucleotides, or they say it is a polynucleotide. Many units of nucleotides, that means phosphate group, pentose sugar, nitrogenous bases grouped together multiple times, that is your complete nucleic acid. So we will be ending here. In our next class, we go on with this topic only, genetics and biotechnology, and from your NCERT books. These are the two chapters of on circulation and endocrine system. And if you want to read this in more detail, not really needed, but if you're specifically looking for any part, so class 11th में भी ये दोनों chapters हैं, circulation and the hormones. So you can refer it from here also. Genetics, the chapters here that we'll talk about when we go more into this idea. Okay. Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.